Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Words of Wisdom. And I would like to think this is the podcast where we keep it real and, we talk about all things mindset, motivation, and who's really making life work for you. So today, what I want to talk about are routines, but I'm not talking about the boring, like you should wake up at 5 a.m. sort of way. It's like I'm more talking about the kind of routine that um, helps you to, I suppose, feel grounded, but like clear headed and what energizes you. And I suppose, dare I say it, maybe a little bit unstoppable. So whether you're rolling out of bed, straight into panic mode, or you're ending your day like scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, this episode is actually going to shift something for you. So what I'm going to dive into today is how to bookend your day, your morning and night routines, and how that alone can actually transform your confidence and your mindset, but also your results as well. So what I wanted to talk about first is like why routines matter. And I really do believe like becoming aware of my routines years ago, and some of them not such good routines, but becoming aware of them, I think, is kind of the first thing, and then it's acting upon that. So I think the mistake sometimes that we make is that we think that having a routine means that you have to be rigid, but it's not about that. It's more about being intentional. So most people think that routines are restrictive, but when you get it right, they're actually quite liberating. In actual fact, having a good routine actually gives you more freedom because they give your brain structure and they're going to give your body rhythm. But then over time, you're going to get momentum. And here's the real truth: you actually already have routines. The only thing is that they may not just be serving you in the right way. So, like, to give you an example, like if you find yourself that you're waking up in the morning and the first thing that you're doing is checking your phone, that's a routine. Whether you realize or not, it's actually a routine. And just as a little aside from that, what wakes us up in the morning is our cortisol. So your cortisol is highest in the morning. Cortisol is also the stress hormone. So then if you go on your phone and you start scrolling, that's going to heighten your cortisol even more. And then for a lot of people to go and have a coffee, which like increases your cortisol again. So it's not a bit of wonder before the morning even starts that you're completely stressed out and full of anxiety. And like going to bed like while doom scrolling, and overthinking, that's a routine. And hitting snooze 6 times before you get out of bed and then rushing, that's a routine. So the question is, and it's not about do you have routines or not. It's like what kind of routines are you unconsciously living by, and are they actually helping you or are they hurting you? Because I know when I started to become aware of mine and change mine, then that's when the domino effect happened of everything else started to change too. If there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, um it's going to be this here, and it's about bookending your day. So your day actually starts the night before and it ends the next morning. I want to talk about this book ending your day and what it means. So, like, if you look at your evening routine, so if you have a good evening routine, you're setting tomorrow up for success, and that's where the magic really begins. Because obviously, you want to sleep well, you want to feel calm, you want to wake up without that frantic energy, but your night routine needs to support that. So, here's what I do, and obviously, what you can try to do too. So, the first thing is like to power down before you go to bed. Like, so 1 hour before bed, well, you want to try to, and look, I'm going to be really honest here, I'm not very good at this, but you want to try to limit screens. I do know it is a game changer. I don't always do it. Sometimes I will be like watch a little bit of TV before I go to bed, or I may be on my phone. But what I do try to do is I've got blue light blocking glasses. So I put those on if I am doing screen time, at nighttime before I go to bed, because it blocks out that blue light, and it's that blue light. We need red light. So we do at night to help us to go to sleep. The other thing I will do is I'll write out tomorrow's plan. So I generally jot down, a few priorities that I have for the next day. That way my brain isn't spinning all night with like, don't forget this, don't forget that, those kind of thoughts. You want to get things out of your head and on paper, or whether it's in note sections in your phone. I'll give you a bit of an example. If I asked you to work out a mathematical equation now in your head. So let's say if I told you to multiply 361954 by 12, there's a strong chance you wouldn't be able to do that in your head. But if I asked you to write it down on paper and do it on paper, you'd actually be able to do it, because when you have it on paper, it's so much easier. So it's kind of the same like for your thoughts and stuff. If you I always have little to-do lists, I have things written down because I believe that it's just freeing up my mind from all that clutter and and I know I will forget about things. So yeah, so try to get as much down on paper as you can the night before. Then I always do a little bit of reflection and gratitude. So I have a little journal, and every morning, every night, just before I go to bed, I'm not talking about hours. I'm literally talking not even 5 minutes. I just write down like what went well today, 3 things that I'm really grateful for. What did I learn? That's literally it. And then when I get into bed, I do my red light mask. I have bought this little device now called the Calm Carry device. I'll tag it in the show notes, but I have found it amazing. It's kind of almost like a little vibration in your hand, but it goes along one of the meridians, so it helps calm you and eliminates, well, I won't say eliminate anxiety, but it certainly reduces it. And I find it very, very soothing, because I feel I would be one of those people. I find it hard to relax my mind, so I have to work really hard on that. So I find that has really, really helped. And then I have magnesium spray, so I spray that on my feet, yes, before I go to bed. And some nights I'll put on maybe meditation, if I want something gentle, but generally that's my night routine. So it doesn't have to be like, an 18-step like skincare routine or anything like that. Just find what winds you down and helps you to signal to your brain that we're actually done for today. And then your morning routine, like you really want to own the first 60 minutes, because your morning is actually going to set the tone for the rest of the day. So you don't need like 4 hours in the morning to get up at 4 a.m. You just need enough space to meet yourself before the world, I suppose, kind of meets you. I just find it like that calm and space. I get up most mornings at 5:30, but the reason that I do is because I have time to myself in the morning. I know between like 5:30 and 7, I'm not going to get any messages or nobody's going to contact me. So it gives me that like alone time. So, but also when I get up in the morning, I don't have any phone for the first 30 minutes. I really do believe that alone time is life changing. But like I said earlier, your cortisol is at its peak in the morning. So then you go on your phone, that's raising your cortisol levels even more. So it's leaving you that you're going into the day more stressed and more anxious. My goal always is to get movement in that first hour or two. So whether it's just going for a walk, whether it's a stretch, I don't know, like a dance around your kitchen, I tend to be in the gym in that first hour, but move your body and, and move your energy. And then I'd always do something, mindset in that first hour or two. So a few minutes of journaling. Again, I'm 5 minutes, like I'm not sitting there writing for hours. Or if you want to read something, but again, it's something that's going to put you in a good, positive mindset for the day. Even just one empowering thought, like can actually completely change your direction. This is how you actually start responding to life instead of just reacting. And what I would tend to find is like, if I don't do this routine, I tend to find in the mornings I get up, like if I was to press snooze, I would end up then just getting up when I need to get up, and everything else then becomes rushed for the day, and I forget stuff, and I feel exhausted by the end of the day and overwhelmed and throughout the day. So I do this for me so that I can keep my mind calm. And I know you're probably all saying, oh yeah, well look, that's all well and good, Sharon, but like how do you create routines that actually stick? Here's the thing, like we've all tried routines, that last a week and then vanish. Why? Because we overcomplicate them. And there's few golden rules for creating routines that make them stick. The first thing is start small. And I'm talking like tiny, like one little habit, 2 minutes, and stack it onto something that you already do. So like I said, I get up in the morning, I take my supplements, like it's one tiny little habit, and then I stack that then with sitting down and doing my journaling. The other thing is you want to make it feel good. If it feels like a punishment, you won't keep to it. So choose habits that make you feel proud, but like not, pressured. So I feel good when I journal. It doesn't feel like a punishment. And the other thing you want to do is track it. So seeing those little wins build up, that's actually going to give you momentum and you feel like you're progressing. And then I think the other thing is just always allow for the bad days. Life will happen. The win is getting back on the wagon, not never falling off it. So there are some mornings that I don't journal for whatever reason. Maybe something happens or I get a phone call or something like that there. Or maybe I'm just tired. I don't allow that to become a pattern that I don't do it the next day and the next day. I just make sure that I kind of double down the next day to make sure I did fall off the wagon one day, then I really have to make sure that I do it the next day. And just remember, guys, it's not about perfection. It's actually about progress. And it's the progress that builds the confidence. And then confidence builds consistency. And that's what builds the results. So what is the mindset shift behind the routine? And I want to talk a little bit about like the psychology for a second. Routines aren't just about time management, they're actually about identity. So every time you stick to a routine, I suppose you're like casting a vote for the person that you want to be. So if you want to feel like someone who is disciplined, if you want to feel like somebody that's healthy or confident and abundant, you need routines that reinforce that identity. So you don't want to wait till you feel motivated. Let your routine carry you until your mindset actually catches up, because routines are your daily declarations of who you actually are. And one of the little lines I've always said to myself, and probably for the last 10, 15 years, it has really served me in good stead, is that like do the opposite to what you feel. So every time I don't feel like sticking to a routine or whatever, I always think, will my future self thank me for this? And the answer is generally yes. And, like for a lot of you who've listened to me here, my story, the fact that like I'd been in a debt and stuff before, and that was like obviously very overwhelming. There was a lot of, doubting myself every day. But I didn't change my life overnight. But what I did do was like I started like with a tiny little evening routine, and just 5 minutes before I would go to bed, I'd write one thing and that I did well and one thing I do differently tomorrow. And that was literally it. And then I went into like, 3 things that I'm grateful for. I remember like reading like years and years ago about that, oh, you need to practice gratitude. You need to write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for and how this would change your life. And if I've been really honest, I thought back then, like, this is a load of codswallop. Like, how can this actually like change my life and stuff? I started doing it and then I stopped it and then I started it again and stopped it. But then what I started to realize was that for the longer periods that I done it, like it wasn't like an overnight change, but I could notice that my perspective was changing. And because I was writing down 3 good things that happened that day, it was switching my focus from stuff that was going wrong to what was actually going right in my life. And there were some days I had to dig deep, but it was focusing my perspective to positive and opposed to negative. Over time, as I said, the writing down the one positive thing became 3 positive things. And then that journaling led to better sleep. Better sleep led to better mornings. Better mornings led to showing up differently, for myself, but also in my business. And that's the power of a simple routine. One small habit can be that first domino. And that's why, even when I go on holidays, I tend to find like I get out of my routine and I feel like I'm all over the shop. And I do be so glad to get back into my routine, because I know my routine is what's going to give me my consistency, but that's also going to lead to my confidence and stuff too. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking like, okay, like where do I even begin? Like, don't panic. I'm going to give you some homework. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to pick one time of day to book in first. So whether that's the morning or the evening. I started with evening because back then I wasn't much of a morning person, and I felt rushed in the morning. I was always like sitting in traffic and rushing, and I didn't go to the gym and stuff in the mornings either back then. So I started with the evening routine because I had more time to think and stuff. But again, depending on the type of person that you are, but just pick one time of the day. Choose one habit to add, like a healthy habit. So make it joyful, but make it, simple. But the key thing is that it's doable in 5 minutes or less. So that could be like taking supplements, that could be journaling, that might be like not going on your phone, that might be like doing a 5-minute stretch, whatever it is that works for you. But stick with it for 7 days and just see how you feel after the 7 days. And if it works, keep going. But I'd be very, very surprised if it doesn't work for you. And if you feel that it's not working or that particular prompt isn't working for you, then, pick something else or tweak it. As I said, this isn't about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it intentionally. So that's it for today, folks. Routines are your anchor in I suppose, a chaotic world. The difference between feeling like life is happening to you or life is happening for you, because what they will do is they will give you control. So if this episode sparked something in you, please send it to a friend, post it in your stories, or tag me with your new routine. I would love to hear what that is. You never know, your new routine could be the spark that, changes everything for you. So until next time, keep showing up, Keep choosing yourself, and remember, your future self is always thanking you. So have a wonderful day. So just a quick one before you go. Over 100 million people listen to podcasts on a daily basis. And while so many come looking for personal growth, most never actually hit follow. So if anything in this episode helped you to see things differently, to feel a bit stronger, or just breathe easier, then do me a massive favor and hit follow right here where you're listening. This means that you'll never miss an episode that might be exactly what you need to hear that day. And most importantly, the more this podcast grows, the more I can keep sharing real value and even open the door to bringing in incredible guests to support your journey. So thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode. And that's my words of wisdom for today's episode of Wow. I hope this gave you something to think about, because remember, your mindset shapes your reality. The way you choose to think today will impact what you create tomorrow. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, tag me, or send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Catch you next time.